At the beginning of my talks and presentation that I give in Austria and Germany, I always like to start with like the story of my very first presentation that I ever gave. And it was like 3 years ago, and I was giving talks and presentations for this German psychotherapist. And he wrote this book that I really, really liked, and so I was going on tour for him and presenting his book. And I was standing in front of this room, and there was still another speaker in the room. I was standing in front of the room, and the right hand had the book, and the left hand had the notes. I was flicking through the notes. I was kind of tense, kind of nervous, like the first presentation. And then from the right side, like this elderly lady walked up to me, like white hair, very friendly face, walked up to me. "Ah, young man, do you also go to this presentation?" And I looked at her and said, "Yeah, I also go to this presentation." And then she nodded towards the book. "Ah, have you also read the book?" I looked at her, I looked at the book, I looked back at her, I said, "Yep, I've also read the book." And then she said, "Yeah, she was very excited about the upcoming presentation." And I looked at her, smiled, and said, "Yep, I'm also excited about the upcoming presentation." And then 5 minutes later, I'm inside, I'm in front of the audience, I give the presentation, and she sits in the first row, she's very excited and smiling and having fun. And after the presentation, she walks up to me and said, "Ah, young man, that was a funny thing when you said that you're very excited about the presentation." And then I looked at her and smiled and said, "Yep, but it was true." And I was very excited about the presentation. And as it was true back then, it's true today. I'm always excited to give presentation and talk, simply for the reason, because not to have this like external box of knowledge, and during my life I put more and more knowledge in, and during talks and presentation I open up the box and hand out the knowledge. It's not like this. It's rather that I share like a part of me. I share like my own successes, my failures, and like my own experiences with you. So sharing like a personal part of me with like a big audience is always an exciting thing for me. And just this as an idea, like where my stuff that I'm telling about is coming from. And with this, I would like to welcome you to my presentation with a very humble title of How to Become an Amazing Therapist in the 21st Century. And I know that this title is very ambitious. And obviously, I won't give you a step-by-step process on how to become an amazing therapist. I'm 22, so I'm myself on the way to become a better therapist. You know, maybe like a decade or something, I might become an expert in the field. Still, during the last 3 to 4 years, I've figured out a few things, how you can improve fast in a short period of time. Another reason why it's hardly impossible to give like in a 90-minute workshop like this speak, how to become an amazing therapist. There's so many different aspects of becoming an amazing therapist, you know. Some even claim that this like therapeutic gene, that you have this innate quality of becoming an amazing therapist. And also that you're here kind of means that you're like the cream of psychology students. Like you're already motivated, you're already engaged, you do a lot of things next to your studies and so on. But still, there's like one technique or one approach that I'm like doing over the past 3 to 4 years that helped me a lot to improve fast in a short period of time. And this is a technique that I hardly see anybody else doing, even though we have the resources now. And this technique or approach is closely related to a change that's taking place nowadays in the world. And it's especially close related to the upcoming of the internet. Because the internet enabled us to get in touch with everybody in the world. And being able to get in touch with everybody in the whole world means we can ask everybody in the world questions, we can learn from everybody in the world, and eventually form like a mentor-mentee relationship with everybody in the whole world. And this is basically the topic of the talk. Basically the idea to learn from the best, and a further consequence, to learn the skill of finding superstar mentors. All right? And this talk is going to be divided, or this workshop is going to be divided in 3 parts. And the first part is the why. So I will give you different examples from my own experiences and what research says, why it is actually beneficial to make the effort and to reach out to this kind of people. And the second phase, in the how part, I will give you 4 different techniques how you can actually reach out to potential superstar mentors and how you can actually create this like initial conversation in order to develop step-by-step a more long-lasting relationship. And those techniques I will share with you. I'm using myself like on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and those techniques helped me, for example, to get therapy and coaching workshops worth 15,000 euros without paying anything for it. How I became a guest lecturer at the University of Vienna at age 20. How I gave presentations throughout Germany at the age of 19, and basically how you can get in touch with people like Daniel Kahnemann, how you can interview Paul Ekman, or talk to the president of the APA. All right. And then the last part, obviously, is you, because this is not just like a presentation, this is a workshop, so you have to participate as well. And at the end, we go step by step through the process of how you can actually craft like kind of like an email in order to get in touch with a potential superstar mentor. Okay? And my hope in this workshop is to get you like one step ahead, to make you a little bit of uncomfortable here and there. There will be some exercises where you will have to step out of your comfort zone, just simply for the reasons when you go there where it's a bit uncomfortable, this is the place where you grow. And the last part, what I also want to do is like to kickstart your network, to give you like here and there a few contacts. All right? Just one more thing about the ideas I'm telling about. One of my mentors always told me what she's offering is a psychological supermarket. And please see my ideas the same. Like a supermarket, if you go in, pick out those things you like, and that you don't like, just leave them back on the shelf. All right? And with this, we can start. And at first, I would like to ask you a question. And the question is, who of you, because you're attending this workshop, so who of you actually wants to make exceptional contribution in the field of psychology? It's not about like the answer to this question. It's not about better or worse. It's just about different priorities in life. And so I'm just asking you, who of you actually have this life goal of making exceptional contributions? All right. So I saw like a bunch of hands going up, a few stayed down. And it's not, as I said before, it's not about better and worse. It's just about different priorities in life. The thing here is, there will be some exercises that make you uncomfortable. And during the last 3-4 years, I talked to a bunch of successful people and entrepreneurs and psychologists and so on. And what they told me was they were able to push through this initial discomfort and through this initial pain that sometimes comes with making exceptional contributions, because in the end, they had this long-term, this overarching goal of making exceptional contributions. So having this at the end, you're ready to go through this uncomfortable situation at the beginning. Okay? But why do we talk about uncomfortable situations? Why should it be uncomfortable to create like a big network of working interactions? And there, to tell you a short story, it was like 3 years ago, and I was at this huge congress, at this hypnotherapy congress. Is anyone of you into hypnotherapy? No, right? Yeah? A few hands going up, okay. So I was there, and there was this keynote speaker, Jeff Zeig. Have you heard about him? Okay. He's like, in the hypnotherapy field, like he's like a huge guy. He's like the role model of most young hypnotherapists and so on. So I was attending this congress. I was a volunteer at the congress. And I was, during his talk, he had the keynote speaker. So during his talk, I was standing there doing the volunteer work. There were like 1,000 people, honestly, 1,000 people watching him give the speech. And afterwards, he went down the stage and like 50 people walked up to him and tried to talk to him. And when I was like, gosh, I would love to talk to him. I would love to ask him a bunch of questions. But it was just simply impossible because I was working and there were so many other people talking to him. And then I finished my shift, 20 minutes later. Everybody else was in workshops again. I go to the door and there was this huge hallway. And then I see this elderly man walking like really slowly with like a coffee and croissant. And then I look at him, and it was Jeff Zeig. And the first moment I go like, yeah, nice. Like I can walk up to him and talk to him. Like I get the chance to talk to him. Like I read all his books, I watched all his workshops and so on. And he's like my role model, you know. I can walk up to him and actually talk to him. And then the minute, or like the second where I decided, I will walk up to him and talk to him, I realized, oh, I actually will walk up and talk to him. And I went, like my heart started to get sweaty, my knees started to get shaky, like our belly crumbled, and I get like really anxious and really nervous, you know, because he's one of my biggest role models. And walking up to this kind of guy and talking to him is like a pretty scary situation, you know. But in this situation, I have this thing, and this is the uncomfortable situations. And if you want to create a big network, often you have to walk up to people where you're kind of like scared, kind of like a bit of afraid, but actually pushing through this discomfort might yield great benefits. And for example, Tim Ferriss once said, a person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. And I knew this in this situation, and I had this long-term goal. So what I did was, I just fought over my anxiety and my fears and my insecurity in this moment, and just walked up to him and started stammering, hey, my name is Till. Honestly, I stammered. I was like, hey, my name is Till. And I just talked to him, and I already reached out to him before, so he remembered me, and then we talked for a bit. And at the end, he invited me over to the States to visit him. And this is the thing, going through this discomfort, at the end, sometimes really, really, really cool benefits are waiting for you. Okay? And now, since I already talked for a bit, now it's your first turn. And now it's your turn. You can imagine your neighbor. Just pick something you don't know. At first, everybody stand up, please. And now, pick somebody you don't know. That's easier. It's less awkward. What we do now is imagine you were in my situation back then. Imagine, I don't know, you're at the APA Congress, like end of the year or something. You're going out of the room, and there's like your biggest psychological role model. If you don't have any, pick somebody really fucking scary, you know? And then just imagine, now you have the chance, you can walk up to the person. The person's cab is going to go to the airport in like 1 minute. So you have 45 seconds. This is like the usual elevator pitch, it's usually speed pitch. You have 45 seconds to walk up to the person, introduce yourself, say a few things about yourself, and then at the end get like an email address or something, exchange business cards whatsoever. All right? And I know probably none of you have ever done it before. So no, it's a scary thing, and it's no like, it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable. But this is exactly the place where you will grow. And this is typical CBT. You know, you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and you do it over and over again. And at one point, yeah, right, exposure therapy. And at one point, your nervousness and your uncomfortableness will release, and you get better and better and better at it. Before we start, before you pick a partner, one person gets the chance to get himself really, really, really uncomfortable, and one person can come up here, imagine the whole crowd is a potential mentor, and you do a 45-second pitch up here. I know you will fail, and I know it's going to be fucking awkward, but that's all right, because it's not about like failing or succeeding. It's just about going over your own insecurities, getting yourself a little bit uncomfortable step by step. So, anybody has the courage to do it? Look, everybody's great.
Okay.
Honestly, I give a big props for this. I wouldn't have the courage to do it. Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay, the idea is, just imagine the whole crowd. I didn't think somebody would come up here. Great. So, no, I thought like,
yeah.
Imagine the whole crowd. Like, who's your biggest psychological role model? Do you have anybody?
I have many, but let's take Yalom.
Oh, Yalam, perfect.
Okay.
Whew, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do you know Yalam? This great psychoanalysis therapist. He wrote like a bunch of books, and he's like, even beyond psychotherapy, super famous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So imagine the whole crowd is Dr. Yalam.
Okay.
You have 45 seconds to introduce yourself, and maybe at the end you ask for email address. Hey, whatever's going to happen is going to be awkward, but everybody's proud of you that you're doing it, honestly. Waiter will stop the time. Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And
okay.
go.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Yalom. My name is Nora. I'm from Romania, and I'm studying psychology. I've read all your books. They are amazing. I'm always reopening them and looking for some answers when I have different questions. And I would really like to be able to send you an email from time to time. So can I have your email address, please?
Perfect. Hey, honestly, good job. Nice. Very nice. Good job, honestly. Respect.
Do you think he would have given it to me?
Yeah, sure. Later, we will go through it, how you can structure it, and like what things to say and so on. But so far, good job. Now it's your turn. Three reasons why we do it. First thing, so you can get to know each other. Some people that you don't already know. Second thing is to make yourself a bit uncomfortable. And third thing, to set like a baseline, to see where are you now and how good are you at these things now. All right? So just pick a partner you don't know. One question?
Can we change from therapist to
So, yeah. It's pretty generic. You can do it with psychologists. If you want to have like a rock star in some band, pick him. No. All right? Okay. Just say a few things. How was it? Anybody who was like, oh, that was really fun, really comfortable? Anybody had it? No, right? Yeah? 2? Okay. It is kind of uncomfortable. It's kind of awkward at the beginning, right? And this is the thing. Especially like when you really start out doing it to like real people, it's even worse. But this is the thing. By practicing it, doing it over and over again, you will become better. And then step by step can like build like a better network. Okay. Good job so far. Now we really start. And now, as I said before, it's structured talk. Now we start with the why. So I'll give you different examples why it's actually beneficial and why you should go out and make the effort of reaching this kind of people. And the first thing is like 2 different parts of benefits. It's like external success and like internal success. In internal success, I mean like learning, that you learn things, personal development, and this kind of things. And external success is rather that you make like nice connections, that you get better jobs, and so on. So we start with the internal success, with like the learning. And obviously, the learning benefits depend on the deepness of interaction. And there's a difference if you just send out one email and you get like a short email back. If you, I don't know, have like a Skype session with a person, if you meet this person a couple of times, or if you even might have like a real mentor-mentee relationship for like a couple of years or something. Obviously, the benefits depend on the deepness. But let's start out with like a really, really light interaction. And even if you just send out like one email, like we will do at the end of the presentation, if you just send out one email and you get like just a one-liner back, what pretty often happens, I believe it still has a benefit for you. Especially it has for me. I know this is highly subjective, but what often happens to me is when I get like, I don't know, from Daniel Kahnemann, he answers my email, I just have a change of relationship, not just with him, but also with his material and his books. Because before this, I was just like one out of a million people who were reading his books. But then responded to my email, and at once, I was one out of like 150 people who responded per email this month. So, by this, the whole stuff that people wrote or the stuff that people are doing become more personal to me and more vivid and more lively. And I especially do this when I have to like study for like really, really hard subjects, and it's like tough to learn. What I do is I just reach out to the people, just ask them one or two random questions, and then I see the person answers me, and I notice, hey, there's like a real person even beyond boring books, you know? And some person was so interested in the subject and so passionate about it that he or she decided to spend their lifetime on it and even write a book about it. And for me, that makes it way more interesting, and I think, okay, this person was passionate about it, how can I discover like an interest in this thing? And one example of an email, how an email could look like. For example, when I studied for neuroscience, I think neuroscience is really interesting, but sometimes it's kind of like tough to study because you have to like memorize all the pathways and so on. So I just reached out to the author of the neuroscience book. It was Mark F. Beer, and he's like the typical email. And at the end, I just asked him like a random question to make him like a real person to me, not like some stranger who wrote the book. And at the end, I asked him, okay, I wonder if you had to choose one little sentence or one quote that keeps you going, what would it be? And in this case, he answered, continue to stay happy. And when I read this and I had this answer from him, like reading the neuroscience book was like way more close, because I also had the kind of the feeling that I need to honor him and then study harder these things, you know, because he already responded to me. So this is like, I know this is highly subjective, but that's one of the things that I benefit from. The next thing is asking questions. Very obvious, right? If you have like really successful people in that field, you just can ask them questions. And I believe there are more or less like 3 different kinds of questions that make sense of asking. And the first kind of question is, if you're, for example, writing a master's thesis in a like certain field, you just can reach out to the person who is the leading figure of the field. And by this, you can get unique insights in the cutting edge of a field. Because pretty often, if you did all the research, if you did like the deep work before and the hard work before, those people are very often very likely to answer your emails and give you insight in the cutting edge. Okay? And what happens often to me is that I just ask some person a question, and they even send me like articles that are not even published. You can get this kind of benefits by reaching out to the people, because they're often, most of them, they're not studying or like researching psychology or working psychology because they just want to earn money, but most of them are really passionate about it, and they want to take psychology to the next level. So when like a young, motivated person comes up and asks this kind of question, they're often really willing to help. The next kind of question is, if you're new to your field, for example, I don't know, you're into CBT, and then you want to discover, I don't know, psychoanalysis. The thing is, at the beginning, if you like get into like a new subject, you don't have any idea who is good or which books to read and so on. And what I do there is, I just use really established person. There I wouldn't shoot for the best person. If I ask this kind of question, I would shoot like for a really established person, and then I would just ask questions like, who are the most impressive but lesser known therapists? What books on the topic can you suggest? What would you focus on when? How would you teach me to? How would you deal with? Who's one of the most unorthodox therapists who gets great results? So by this, you can use the person who is really established in the field as a resource to discover the field way more broadly. Because otherwise, you just have to figure out for yourself, okay, who's good, who's not good, which books are good, which books are not good. And by this, you just can get like an easy entry in the field. And the third kind of question is you just simply ask for a piece of advice. Whenever you have like a big decision, like I did it back then when I was like 18, I had this big decision, so I studied medicine or psychology. Probably some of you also had this decision. And there I just reached out to the guy from the first story, Jeff Zeig, this hypnotherapist. I just wrote him on Facebook. I just asked him, hey, should I study medicine? I wrote a bit more, not just this. Hey, should I study medicine or psych? No. I just asked him a few questions, and then I asked him, hey, should I study medicine or psychology? And he answered me, and he said like this typical therapy thing. He went like, yeah, do what your heart dictates you. I was like, okay, nice, good piece of advice. So this kind of things you can do. So whenever you have a big decision, just use those people in the field as a resource. The worst thing that could happen is they don't answer, but very often they're very likely to answer. And then you can always build on this. For example, back then I asked Jeff Zeig this random question, what should I study? 2 years later, I meet him at the Congress, and he remembers me. So you can always build on this, okay? The next thing, they have a question for you. What do you think, if you learn something and you want to like develop faster, what do you think is the most important thing for fast learning? What do you think?
Practice.
Practice as well, yeah.
Motivation.
Motivation as well, yeah.
Being interested in it.
As well, yeah. But all the things you said, that helps like to work hard a lot. But one of the most important things is feedback. Because if you don't get feedback, you just can work super, super hard, but you just go in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? So getting quality feedback is immensely important for develop faster. So this is the thing. And for example, there's also research on this. And research says the impact of constructive feedback extends beyond the teaching and learning process. Feedback is essential for the student's growth, provides direction, helps to boost confidence, increase motivation, and self-esteem. So for this reason, most of the time when I do something, I just reach out to people and just ask for feedback. For example, I was at this huge congress like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and there was this Debny Yoon. Debny Yoon is one of the coolest hypnotherapists. He's like 80 or something, he's still working, and he wrote this really small book. There's so much knowledge in it. So if any one of you is getting hypnotherapy, his book, 101 Things I Wish I'd Known Before I Started Using Hypnosis, it's really, really good. And he was given this talk about hypnosis and warts, how you can remove warts by using hypnosis. It was really, really interesting. And after his talk, I walked up to him, gave him a typical 45-second pitch, got his email address, went home, tried out those things with a few of my clients, tried out those things, wrote it down, like really, really in detail, exactly what I did. Then sent him over and asked, hey, I watched you talk, afterwards I walked up to you, do you remember me? I did this and this and this. This? What do you think about this? He responded like a week later or something and said, you did this good, this and this, you should improve this and this and this and this and this and this. And also here is a study that is not published yet, you can check it out and maybe it helps you. I tried the whole thing again, got way better results in like a short period of time, sent it him again, and we sent a few emails back and forth. If I would have done it by myself, or just like by some random hypnotherapist who would help me, it would take me like months or years of practicing over and over again. And by getting feedback from the guy who's really at the leading edge in this area, this helped me to develop really fast in a short period of time. Okay? The thing is, asking for feedback is pretty often kind of uncomfortable. Because if I don't get feedback, I'm just in like this beautiful process, you know, it just works good, and I just can think it's like, oh, it's all right, you know, it's going well. But then if you get feedback, pretty often like your expectations are crushed, you know, and people go like, okay, there's a flaw, there's a flaw, there's a flaw, there's a flaw, and so you notice you're not perfect. So asking for feedback is often like a scary thing, and it's kind of uncomfortable. But if you do it, it helps you to develop faster. Also, when I read blog articles and stuff, I just send them out to therapists and just ask them what they think about this and get feedback from them. For example, I recently wrote this article, and then just reach out to Dr. Short. He's like a therapist from the States, and just ask him this typical 3 to 4 sentences at the beginning, I will explain later, and then just ask, hey, I wrote this short article, and it would be amazing to hear what you think about this. He just responded and gave me like really, really good input that I wouldn't have that I wouldn't get otherwise if I would just stay for myself, you know. So quality feedback, you can get it from those people, and it's really important for the learning process. And now the last thing. This is like the thing most of the time I shoot for. It's like to have this real mentoring relationship. But what does it actually mean? And it means a relationship between a young adult and an older, more experienced adult who helps the young individual learn to navigate through the adult world and the world of work. And in my experiences, having like a mentor, so far like 2 or 3 like real proper mentors, it helped me a lot. Not just like for work stuff, but also next to work, because they help you to boost self-confidence and so on. But also research says there are certain benefits of actually reaching out and getting mentors. And those benefits are, for example, people with a mentor have a higher promotion rate, have a higher salary, have a higher job satisfaction, are better than non-mentored peers, and they have more opportunities to display skill. And this is the reason why when I do internships and stuff, I also shoot like for like A players, for like really, really successful people, just simply for the reason like friends of mine, they do internships in like the private practice of like, I don't know, their uncle's cousin or something, you know. And this guy might be like a pretty good therapist, and you can learn a lot from him. But the thing is, since he's not that successful, he doesn't have the opportunities to give you a stage where you can display your skill. When I had this German psychotherapist, he was able, because he wrote a book, he was able, okay, like here's a stage, you can get on there and talk about your stuff. So if you shoot like for better people, they can offer you the chances to display your skill. And by this, you can get more jobs and so on and so on. And also, this was in academia, but also like in business relationships. And now the following study that I'm going to quote is just in academia. And there was written, creating a network of developmental relationships becomes critical to achieving career success. So making this network and making this connection actually will help you to become more successful. So as you see, now we're already drifting away like from the internal thing and going like to more external thing. And this can you generally you can term it with like connections. So basically having these connections helps you a great deal to get like this outer success, like jobs and internships and so on. And there are like 3 areas where it's helpful. On the one hand, you get status. If you're just name dropping and just talking about yesterday, I think some of you were this of the presentation from Nabil who talked about studying in the US. Anyone of you been there? No. Okay, we were just 3 or 4 people. So, and they also talked about when you just know a lot of people, you just can name drop, and this also gets you ahead. Okay, and with every person you know, it gets easier to get to know the next person. And then also jobs and internships. I got a bunch of jobs just by knowing the right people, and probably all know this. I know we're coming from academia background, and we all would love to have that the person with the best skill and that works the hardest, that this person always gets the best jobs. But unfortunately, in the real world, it's like this, that those persons often who have skill and the relationships often get the right jobs, internships, and so on. So building this network is really helpful for this. And the last thing is scholarships. And at the beginning, I just got like the therapy and coaching workshops, scholarships. But now I even got scholarships for academia just by getting to know the right people. For example, like now I got accepted by the University of Chicago for like an exchange semester. And I have shitty grades. Like my grades in university are really not good. But I just got accepted there because I talked to the right person. And I talked to one professor. I got it with like a few corners. I talked to this professor from the University of Chicago. And like I built a relationship with him over like weeks and months. And at one point he went like, you know what? I want you to come over to the States and work with me. So he wrote me a reference letter. And while I applied for the University of Chicago, I applied with a reference letter from a professor from the University of Chicago. And this helped me to get the scholarship while having not that good grades. Okay? But so far about this. So this is the why. So like I hope I got across like a few benefits, why it's actually beneficial to reach out for this kind of people. Now we come to the fun stuff. Now we come there, like how do you actually do it? How do you actually contact this kind of people? How do you create the initial contact? And there are 4 different techniques. And the first technique is cold emailing. This is the least scariest thing because you just have to sit in front of your laptop and write a few things. But still, how do you go about this? Okay, the first thing is you just pick a person, obviously. The second thing, what you do is you just do some background research on the person. Because if you write the person, you just want to show the person that you know who he or she is and that you already know what they're doing. And then, most of the time, if you like reach out for people in academia or therapists, most of the time they have like, even the alum, was you, right? Even the alum has his phone number just displayed in the internet. So you just basically can just call him. But I tried it a couple of times, he didn't answer. So this is one thing what you can do. And then when you reach out to the people, I tried so many different ways how you can write emails to people. And at the end, even if you write like amazing, beautiful letter with like beautiful grammar and words, if it's too long, like nobody's reading it. So the most important thing is if you reach out to this kind of people, be like really concise and be like really short. And then I'll figure out this like 4-sentence structure. And the first thing is I always go, okay, who am I? The second thing is, what am I doing? And that is related to the person. The third thing is, I know who you are. So I show that I did the background research, and I show maybe sometimes I like write like an odd fact about the person. For example, when I contacted this neuroscience professor from MIT, I just mentioned that he was like he had like the 2nd prize in the World Sailing Championship. Really odd fact, and I just did it. I just found out about a lot of research in the back. Okay, and then the last thing. This is the most important thing. At the end, state like one smart but easy to answer question. And this is like your foot in the door, you know? You ask the smart, easy to answer question, the person will write back. Most of the time just like a 1 sentence or something, but you got like a foot in the door, and then step by step you can start to develop a relationship. All right? I'll just give you examples how it could look like. For example, when I wrote the APA president, Nadine Kozlov, you can read it, right? First sentence, my name is Till, I'm a 22-year-old psychology student from Vienna, Austria. Okay, this is sentence number 1. Sentence number 2. I got invited to speak at the European Congress of Psychology as well as the TEDx conference later this year, where we'll talk about the topic of self-education. So I'm telling what I'm doing. Third thing is, I know who she is, and I'm like a bit of flattering, you know. Since you are one of the most accomplished psychologists in the world, right now as the president of the APA, editor of journals, board member, and numerous other responsibilities, I have one quick question for you. And the fourth thing is, this is easy to answer, but like kind of smart question. And here the question is, how important is it to have a mentor? And this question was not that smart, but I just asked it because I'm talking about the topic of mentorship, so I just wanted to quote her. In the end, she responded like 2 days later, and then she said, yeah, it is important, and so on. It was like a really short email, but this is like your foot in the door, and this is all you get at the beginning. Because why should like the super successful person invest more value in you than you in her? So now, step by step, I can build on the relationship. Okay? Another example, they just reached out, like I'm doing since like a long time, and they just reached out to this mental trainer from the States who sold like a bunch of books and DVDs and whatsoever. And they just went, okay, sentence one. Hey, I'm from Germany, I'm 20 years old. Number one. What I'm doing. I was a professional basketball player for the last years. I study psychology, and I'm fascinated by the opportunities of mental training. I'm now on the way to publish my audiobook, Mental Training Basketball Players. It's in German, and I want to push the sport of basketball and its play to the new level. Then, I made a lot of mistakes, you know. There, like third sentence, I didn't say that I know who he is, and I didn't flatter him, this kind of things. And I just went like directly asked the question, if you would give me one piece of advice to make this audiobook a success and make people buy it and listen to it, what would it be? I'm very thankful for your help. So as you see, this email is by far not perfect, and I'm just like really demanding and asking for a lot of things, but still he answered. And after some time, we sent like more and more emails, and now we're just talking back and forth now in a while. Similar, when I talked to Daniel Kahnemann, this is like also the first email that I introduced, and like similar structure. All right? So this is the first thing, this cold emailing. I know it's like the least scariest, but therefore it's pretty hard to work up from there, because you really have to go like step by step, like really small steps, try to work up from there. If you meet people in person, or as the next thing, if you call them, it's easier to develop like a more deep relationship. So the next thing is cold calling. And just one thing about cold calling, it's scary as fucking shit, honestly. The first time you do it, scary as hell. Like I remember I did like 3 years ago, I was stammering on the phone because English is not my mother tongue, so talking like overseas to a person not in your mother tongue, like really, really nervous. Still, if you do this, if you master this, you can, and you honestly, you can get through to people. Super helpful, because then you have this real interaction with the person, and you can build on this, what is way more valuable. Here's a script that I use, that I actually got this from Tim Ferriss, who was reaching out to people like all the time. And this is a script you can use, and honestly, at the beginning, I just read it down. And the script looked like this. Most of the time, you get a gatekeeper first. Here, for example, I tried to contact the CEO of the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic, you know the Mayo Clinic, right? Like the most prestigious clinic in the world right now. The president, John Noseworthy, the CEO, John Noseworthy, he's like having lunch with President Obama, like on a casual Wednesday evening and stuff. So super, super successful CEO from one of the most prestigious clinic. And most of the time what you get is, at first you get to a gatekeeper, like the personal assistant, the office, and so on. At the beginning, I spent a lot of time trying to find out the number of the office directly. But if you want to reach out to this kind of people, just call in the clinic, go like, hey, can I speak to the office of John Noseworthy? They connect you further, then you talk to the first gatekeeper. And then you go, can I talk to the personal assistant? And then you go to the next gatekeeper, okay? And then if you get to the final gatekeeper, most of the time the personal assistant, by the way, those people, super friendly. They can tell you like no and reject you in the most friendliest way ever. You can smile while you hang up like, oh my God, that was a friendly conversation. And then I go like, hey, the first thing I do kind of like confident, you know, like maybe sometimes you get through. Hey, there's the gross colleague for John Noseworthy, please. And most of the time they go like, okay, may I ask what it concerns? And now, here's like the structure that I use. The first thing is sure. I'm a 22-year-old psychology student from Austria, Vienna. I say 22 because it shows I'm young. I'm kind of like, this gives me kind of like sympathy from their side, you know. Then I will be speaker at the European Congress of Psychology as well as a TEDx event later this year, and on the topic of self-education. So I'm telling what I'm doing, so I'm not just some scam. I just watched Dr. Noseworthy's interview on ABC, and I'm inspired by his career. So this is the reason why I'm calling, because there's a specific event, so I'm not just randomly calling. The next thing is, I finally built up the courage to call him for one really specific piece of advice. Here's the thing, I finally built up the courage. Like, you don't have to play hard. Like, when you're nervous, don't play hard. The people can hear it in your voice. So just be honest about it and try to like get sympathy from the person. And then, can I ask for like really specific piece of advice? It won't take more than 2 minutes of his time. And then you ask, can you help me get through him? So basically, you just stand on the same side and go like, hey, we're friends. Can you help me get through him? And then most of the time go like, yeah, okay, like I see what I can do. They ask me real quick, and then you get through. And then you go like, hey, John knows what he's speaking. Then you say the same thing like to the gatekeeper. At the end, you go like, can I ask you a question? Then, may I? Then he goes like, yeah, okay. Then you just ask a question, you just shoot. And at the end, what you do is, oh, thank you so much, sir, for being so generous with your time. If I have an occasionally super hard question, like really occasionally, super hard, can I get in touch with you via email? Okay? This is a script that I used like a couple of times to reach out to a bunch of people. The thing here is, it failed. And it didn't work. I just got to the gatekeeper, I didn't get through. But why I'm including this thing when I failed? Because most of the time, when you do other things, is cold calling, cold emailing, this kind of successful people, you fail a lot of times. At the end, like failing at this kind of things, because the people are so nice, it's like a friendly failing, you know? But still, you fail a lot of times. And for example here, I didn't get through. And I even know what I made wrong. Like I talked to the gatekeeper, and then like I was getting closer and closer, closer. And then I just went and made a stupid mistake. I went, hey, I just want to quote him like in front of the students. And then she went, she went like relieved, because saying I want to quote somebody is like a media request. So she went like, okay, so if you want to do this, you have to talk to the admin, blah, 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 blah. And so I didn't get it. Then I just shoot him an email, and maybe he's going to respond next week or something. So as you see, high ratio of failure. But this is all right. And if you do it over and over again, you become better, and step by step, you get closer. So the third thing is kind of like a tricky thing. For example, just imagine like a stranger walks up to you and asks, hey, can I ask you 20 questions? You would go like, no. But if a stranger walks up to you and asks, hey, can I interview you? You would go like, oh, me? Really? Okay, all right. So this is the thing. And you can do the same. So what I did like a bunch of times, now I'm an author for like a big blog. Before I was this, I just reached out to newspapers or to magazines, because nowadays everybody's looking for quality content on the internet. And everybody's looking for quality content, so they go, yeah, all right, yeah, please do it. Then you just reach out to the person. As this example, Paul Ekman. And what you do is you reach out through the most like media respective way. So you don't directly write to the person, because if you would be a reporter, you wouldn't do it. You just ask the media office, hey, can I conduct an interview with Paul Ekman? For example, like this. Here I wrote, you can't see it, but it's like media at Paul Ekman. So I didn't read out Paul Ekman, but media. Then I just go, dear Ekman Group, I would like to conduct a short interview with Mr. Ekman. I'm an author for lifehack.org, and I will also be a TEDx speaker end of the year, where I would like to quote Ekman on different topics. The interview will be short and straight to the point, and won't take longer than 10 minutes. The questions will touch Mr. Ekman's working habits and his opinion on how important is it to have a good mentor. I would be glad if you can help me out. So as you see, the structure of the email to the before emails is kind of different. And you hear them like more professional, you know. And at the end, most of the time, they're really glad to help you out, because those persons also like to be interviewed and like to be in big newspapers, you know. And then what you do is you just schedule an appointment through Skype or something. And then the first 5 minutes, you just knock off the question for the interview that you're going to publish in the newspaper. And then the next 10 minutes, you just can ask whatever you want. This is the crazy thing. As soon as you foot in the door, you just can ask questions whatever you want. And pretty often happened to me, I was scheduled for like a 10-minute call. And then I just started to ask my question. And we started to have like really nice conversation. We talked like for an hour or something. And at the end, you always can build up on this. For example, here as well, I asked him further, hey, next year I'm in the States. It was really nice talking to Paul Ekman. Maybe I can meet him in person, go for a coffee or something. And they just went, hey, sounds like amazing experiences. We wish you the best of luck for the States. If it's possible at this time, we'd be happy to set something up. And so this is the thing. And this is the way how you can get to drink a coffee with Paul Ekman, maybe. All right, now the last one, before it's your turn again. The last one is from the beginning, elevator pitch. And as I said before, calling is better, interview is better because it's through Skype. The best thing is, if you really want to connect with like A players or like really successful people, is if you walk up to them on a conference and really talk to them face to face. Okay? The thing is, most of the time, because those people are pretty successful, and they get people walking up to them, oh my God, I love your books. They get it like 100 times a day. So you kind of like, in a way, have to stand out. For this, you have to prepare it. Like yesterday, the presentation, this Nabil guy from the APAGS also said, if you want to connect with this kind of people, be prepared. Have like a few questions in mind you want to ask that are really specific and they can't be researched, you know? Okay, but how do you do it? How is it structured? So the first thing is you say who you are. Obviously, hey, my name is Till. Then the second thing what you're doing is you tell the person what you're doing, okay? As you did, very good. I'm studying there and there. And then what you should do is, because so many people talk to them, and a lot of scams just walk up to them, just reference for credibility. So if you have anything, for example, you were here. So yeah, I'm like a member of EFPSA and this kind of things. Quote for credibility. This is really important. And then at the end, as you did, you just ask, hey, maybe we can catch up and talk on certain topics in a more like a less hectic environment and just talk about a few things. And then at the end, you just add like one odd fact about you. Because this guy's handing out his business card to like a bunch of people. So most of the time, he won't remember you. So what you can do is, you just say one odd fact about you. Nabil, the guy I talked yesterday to, what he did was always when he handed out his business card out, he wrote on the business card the place where he met. For example, when he met, I don't know, Zimbardo in the bus, he would go, Garrick Zimbardo, I met you on the bus. And then he hands out the business card. Also a smart thing. Also, like what I do most of the time is I just say like one odd fact about me so the person remembers me.
Like what?
I don't know, for example, like I did this pilgrimage 2 years ago. It's like really odd, it's like really not related to psychology. Let's go, yeah, by the way, I was like pilgrim for 1 month. I had like a hat and walked like through the streets. This is like super random, but he remembers me, you know, go like, aha. And then I go like, hey, and by the way, so you remember me because like a bunch of people talk to you every day. 2 years ago, I was like for a whole month a pilgrim. I had like a hat walking through Spain. Maybe if the stars align, I can share a few stories with you. This kind of thing, you know. All right. So those are basically the 4 techniques. All of them help you to create this initial interaction. And always the thing is, you have to build up on this step by step. Okay. And now it's back to you. And now it's your turn again. The thing is, now basically I gave you a bunch of information and you could do it. You could reach out to this person. But the question is, would you? And most of the time there's this difference between could and would. And a lot of people know how to do things and know they should do it, but they will never do it. Simply for the reason a lot of people are super afraid of failure and are afraid to not succeed. And they also like to quote, always like to quote Samuel Beckett when he said, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. And at the beginning, for the first year, like almost nobody wrote back to me because I didn't have all this method and techniques. So I failed like a lot of times, but I just tried again and again and again. And at one point, I just found out certain techniques. So now, before we start to craft your first email, everybody stand up again. And now, a game that I really like. This is like kind of like a CBT again. Now, in order to desensitize yourself against failing, we do the fail exercise. So for the next 5 minutes, I want you to run around, walk around, stay in the room, wherever you want to go, and fail as often as possible, or get rejected as often as possible in the 5 minutes. You have to count. The person who counted the many times gets the present. Examples, really random examples. Ask for somebody's phone number. I don't know. The guys walk up to a beautiful girl like, hey, give me a phone number. She's going to go, no. Perfect. Number 1. Ask for ridiculous things. Go like, hey, can I sniff your boxer shorts? This kind of things. Be super random, honestly. Try to call like put your phone in airplane mode and try to call somebody. Tell somebody what to do. I don't know, I don't know, turn around or something. Try to open locked door. Try to eat a spoon. What did I write there? Try to eat a spoon in cinema. It's impossible, you know. So I will stop the time. Honestly, you kind of seem a bit tired, right? So I just open the door so you can run out. Honestly, walk up to other people, okay? Walk up to the people and do weird things. This is your chance. Now you have a frame where you're allowed to be like super awkward and super weird, okay? Now you can do whatever you always wanted to do. And people are like, why do you do this? Till told me so. So now you can do it, all right? Count your failures. Count your failures. Okay. Are you failing to eat the banana? No.
I want to feed someone.
Perfect, perfect. Great start. I like this energy. Okay. Hey, there's some people there. Okay, 5 minutes and let's go. Let's go. Count your failures. Let's go. Okay. All right. Some people failed to come back. It's a big fail. Very good. Who has the most fails? Or did you forget to count? You forgot to count, right? Yeah. It's all right. Good. No present. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, this is the thing. Did anybody ask like a weird request to the person actually did it? Yeah, right? This happens. If you start to ask for weird things, you just get weird things. And if you start to try things more and more often, you will be surprised how often things work out. Like when I started with this, contacting this kind of persons, I would never think that like my inbox is going to be full of like Nobelprize winners and this kind of people. But this just happens. If you try again and again and again, this kind of things happen. Now, we're going to do the cold email. Okay, you're going to craft at least one email. Okay, so as I said before, usually I would say now you hit the send button and you send out your first email and everybody's really happy. We can't do it, but hopefully like you get internet access during the next day somehow, and I would love to see you send the email. So this would be, if you send the email, this would be your first step to maybe a promising mentor-mentee relationship. You never know. As you saw today, if you go out and you start to make random requests, sometimes you get more back than you expected. Same with this email that you send out. Sometimes you'll really be surprised how much you get actually back. Okay? Another thing, because this thing, I just noticed for myself how it helped me to develop, what kind of like amazing opportunities you got. So I just wish that you really, really, really do it. And for this, I have one offer for you. The one person, the Congress until Saturday, right? Yeah? Okay. The person who gets to talk to the most hard to reach person and ask the most interesting question until Saturday gets a trip to Vienna, all expenses paid. I'm not kidding. The person who gets to talk to the most hard to reach person and ask the most interesting question gets a trip to Vienna, all expenses paid for 1 weekend. Okay? Okay. No, wait. Thank you. So, this is the thing. This is the offer. Let's see who's going to do it. One last thing, because as I said before, there's a huge failure rate, okay? And basically you have the knowledge. And I hope I got across like the benefits here and there that might evoke and come from building the kind of relationship. And I hope I got like a few ideas across how you can actually go about this. And just going to people is not as successful than really having like kind of like a method and like a really like thoughtful approach while contacting this kind of people. And still at the end, as you saw in the exercise, go and reach out for the stars, honestly. Go as high as you can and see what you can do. And I know something's scary, but I want to end this whole thing with a quote that I really like and that I just tell myself every single day. And it's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. Like, do one thing every day that scares you. And yeah, thanks for participating so amazingly. It was really cool. And I'm just excited how the other people are going to react to you now after this thing. Yeah, so thank you very much for being here. And yeah, thank you very much.